6 steps to find micro-influencers and get them to promote your brand. Influencer marketing is very, very popular nowadays. Obviously, everybody knows about the big influencers out there. They create a following on one social media platform or another, and then because they're able to promote other products and services, they get paid big money to do it. It started off as sort of a fledgling industry, and it's grown into a very legitimate, gigantic industry where the most successful influencers can make a tremendous amount of money for one simple post or one simple recommendation. And so it can be really, really powerful as a marketing method, because one of the things that is the most powerful element about it is the fact that because there's a relationship between the influencer and the audience, when they make a recommendation, it's like a personal recommendation the way a friend would, as opposed to an advertisement where they just see sort of your products and services and whatever your pitch is. The challenge is, if we're a small business, it's impossible to be able to afford help from a big influencer to get them to promote our brand, promote our product, or promote our service. Every so often you hear a story about somebody who's really famous or an influencer that just decided they liked a particular product, started to use it, and then that product gained all this sales and notoriety from that. But we can't count on that, because we don't know whether they're ever going to use our products and whether those things are ever going to become public. So it's too expensive in general, but it's really valuable in terms of an ability to promote our products, our services, and our brand in general. So what can we do if we want to be able to leverage that same idea, but we don't have the budget or we don't have the time to be able to wait months to get into a social calendar to get a post? Well, one of the great things about it is, for every big name influencer out there, there are actually a lot more smaller ones in very similar or the same niches. And they can have just as powerful an effect on their followers, even though they're smaller. But the benefit is they cost a lot less because they don't have as big a following, and they're a lot less busy because they don't have people knocking down their doors wanting them to promote stuff. And so if we can find micro-influencers in our niche and we can get them to promote for us, we may be able to marry the best of both worlds, where we get sort of the power of having that influencer marketing where it's recommendation style marketing, yet at the same time, we're able to do it in a way where it's more budget conscious and we aren't going to go crazy in terms of spending our entire marketing budget or even more than that to be able to do it. So how do we find and use these micro-influencers to be able to promote our brand? Well, to do that, there are 6 different steps that we can follow. And if we follow these steps, we're going to be able to find them, we're going to be able to identify them, contact them, and then we're also going to be able to get them to promote our products and services. And so these are the steps that we can follow. Basically, what we want to do is start by identifying the potential micro-influencers in our niche. And to do that, there's a number of different ways. First, we can use influencer discovery tools like MoDash to search for creators that have 10,000 to 100,000 followers. There are other tools out there as well, and that will let you select criteria like location, engagement rate, audience demographics, and things like that. We can also search social media platforms themselves using relevant hashtags and keywords related to our niche to see what accounts come up and see which ones are going to have any kind of influence where we may be able to use them. So obviously they would need a decent size following, but in addition to that, we're looking for engagement. Do people care what they're saying? Even if they have 1 million followers, if they paid for them, and so every time they post something, nobody reacts to it, that's not going to give us any value, because when they promote something, no one's going to listen to it. We can also look through our own followers and those of competitors, because if there's people that are following us, in general, they already like our products and services. They already are bought into the idea of what we have to offer. So if they happen to have a decent following, then we can tap into them too. And remember, this isn't about finding one. So even if they only had 5,000 followers, if they were people that were very active and engaged with their messaging, then we can do that again and again and again with various influencers all at the same level and get the same combined effect that we would if we had one big one. So we can check that. We can check followers for our competitors. If there are any competitors that we have, we want to see who they're promoting as well, because if they're following them, maybe they don't have any connection, they just happen to be following them. If we reach out, we might be able to get them to come and promote for us instead. So for any potential micro-influencers, those are the ways that we can find them. We also want to check for any kind of users that are already creating content about our brand or products. There may be people out there, even if they're small, that love our stuff, love what we offer, and they might already be making videos or content. And so we could try to find that and see if they would be people that can leverage that for us as well, that we could use in some sort of a paid capacity where we hire them to do things for us to generate more buzz and more prospects and leads and sales. Once we've sort of narrowed down that to a list or made a list of the micro-influencers we would consider based on those various factors and methods, now what we need to do is actually evaluate, because not all micro-influencers are going to be right for our business. Some of them are not going to have the same messaging. Some of them might be in conflict with what we stand for. And some of them just might not have an audience that overlaps at all. So to evaluate and select them, the first thing we want to do is we want to ensure that they align with our brand values and our target audience. So we've got our little list, but now what we want to do is dig in and see what their messaging looks like. What kind of messages are they sending? What kind of responses are they getting? What do they stand for? Is there anything obvious or clear that they talk about all the time or that they mention that they stand for? And we want to make sure that we do that in order to figure out, first of all, is there alignment? Do they even target our exact audience? And if they do, is the messaging that they're sending that audience consistent with what we would want to send? It doesn't have to be the same. We just don't want it to be opposed to anything that we stand for. Then we want to check their engagement rates and audience authenticity. Again, one of the challenges with social media is that we have the opportunity to be able to buy followers. So just because somebody has a gigantic list or gigantic following doesn't mean that they're going to be an effective influencer. It's far more powerful and effective to have an influencer with 5,000 followers that all are super and hyper engaged in what they're offering than it is to have somebody with 1 million where people don't even open their posts or read what they have to say. And so we need to be able to check that and figure out what their authenticity is like and their engagement rates. And that we can tell relatively easily just by scrolling through their feeds and see what kind of reaction they're getting to stuff that they're posting. If they have a gigantic audience but nobody's responding, there's not a lot of engagement there. That's probably not somebody that would be worth the money for us to go and employ their services to be able to make that happen. We also want to review their content quality and their style, right? One of the things is going to be the quality itself. I mean, is the stuff that they're posting professional? Is it consistent with the way that we do it? If they're very professional and we're not, then that could still potentially work. If they're not professional and they're very rough and we are really professional, then that may not be a really good fit, because we want to make sure that the quality of what they're posting would be something we would be proud of to say that we're associated with, because that's ultimately what we're doing. We can't look at this as a transactional relationship, like, oh, we're going to get a bunch of followers or prospects from this, and then we can just cut the cord. We're going to be connected to them if we have them promoting for us. So we want to make sure that there's congruence there and that it's consistent. And the other thing is style. Even if their quality is really good, even if the audience is good, even if the engagement is good, if they use a really sort of crass style where they're using a lot of slang or swear words or whatever, and they've got a rabid following, but we run a squeaky clean kind of business where we have an image to protect and that's not going to be a great fit, because we don't want to confuse people and we don't want to turn people off that are already doing business with us. So we want to make sure that all of that stuff fits our brand image in the best way possible. And then once we've got an idea, and we've got an idea of who we could go after, and we've got an idea of the fact that they're aligned with what we want to be able to offer, then we want to develop a campaign strategy. Another mistake that we can make here is think, well, geez, they're an influencer, they have a lot of pull with this particular market, so whatever, as long as they say our company name and give our URL, we should be good to go. That's not a great way to go about it. We actually want a strategy, and we want that for a number of reasons. Number one, we want something that's measurable to begin with, so the influencer themselves has some accountability. We want to make sure that we can measure what we're getting so we can evaluate whether or not it's worth it. Another thing is we want the opportunity to go back to that again and again. So if there's somebody who's really valuable and it really works for us, we want an ongoing narrative with a strategy that we could keep going back with additional campaigns in order to be able to continue to run more stuff. And so it's really important to have all of that stuff laid out in advance. We want to set clear goals and objectives for the influencer campaign so we know exactly what type of content we want influencers to create. You know, some influencers will create the content for us. We tell them what our product is, we send them a copy of it or a demo version, they're able to use it, and then they can go on and talk to their followers about it, and the rest is history. We can also build in the idea that we get to vet that before they actually talk about it. So that's always a good idea, especially if it's a new relationship. And we also want to make sure whether or not we're getting images, whether or not we're getting videos, are we getting, walkthroughs. We want to be very clear about the type of content that we want them to create. And we want to be clear that we're choosing a content type that makes sense for our audience. If they're a visual audience and we have them make an audio type product or audio type promotion, it's not really going to have a lot of value. We're going to want them to do something visually so that way it connects with that audience. And we can do sponsored posts, we can do user-generated content, we can do storytelling, we can do, actual ads that they're basically reading. There are a bunch of different ways we could do this, and we could give them the exact copy and just have them read it or make a video for it. Or we can give them bullet points about our products and services and say, go ahead, make it in your own image with the way that you would normally do it for your audience. But again, it's smart to say, we want to check it before you actually post it, just to make sure it's consistent. And then obviously we could even create the content for them and just have them promote it. But that's going to be the least effective because it isn't actually coming from them. It's clearly a blatant promotion because it's our voice or our video or our content that obviously isn't theirs and they're just promoting it. So it's usually better to have them create it if possible. And then we want to create the actual campaign. And we want to create campaign-specific hashtags so we can track and measure our efforts. Hashtags are very easy to track because anybody that's reposting it or anybody that's liking it or following it, we're going to be able to just search by those hashtags and see everywhere that appears. And so we want ones that are unique to what we're doing and ones that are specific either to the campaign or our company or products or services or whatever. So we have a way to measure it, and we also have a way to distinguish what we're measuring from all of our other marketing efforts as well. If we're using the same hashtags in 12 different campaigns, we're never going to know where all the results are coming from. So once we got all of this stuff down, we've got an idea of who we want to target and where to find them, and we know that they're congruent with what we want to offer, and we also know what we want to get out of those campaigns. The next step is to actually reach out and start to build those relationships. What we want to do is engage with potential influencers, and the best way to do this in the beginning is to actually like and comment on their posts. So even before we reach out, we want to show them that we believe in what they're doing, that we like what they're offering, and that we recognize who they are. They may still do business with us because they're going to want the payment. And if they have an opening and they believe in our product or service, they might be fine doing that. But it's far more effective to actually go in, like them, follow them, comment on stuff that they're doing, and maybe forward that or whatever it is on their post before we even reach out. Because what's going to happen is, as soon as we reach out, the first thing they're going to do is go to their own following and they're going to see if they can find us. And if they see that we're in there and they see that we've connected with them and we're engaging, if we just did it recently, that's not great, but it's still better than not doing it at all. If we've done it a while ago, that's even better. Because now they can see that we're actually part of their following. They're going to want at that point to really want to be able to do business with us. So then unless there's some kind of deal breaker in what we're asking for, or there's something about our product or service they don't believe in, we have a much better chance of landing them as somebody who can do a promotion for us. And then what we want to do is we want to send personalized messages that explain why we want to work with them and exactly what we're offering. So we might not need to get into specific price because they might already have that figured out, or we could offer that right up front and then hope that they counter if they aren't happy with the price. But basically what we want to do is give them the benefit that they're going to get other than, hey, there's a paycheck. I'm going to send you samples of my product. It's something I think you're going to love. It's going to fit in right with your audience. It's going to help you do this better, do that better. Love to have you try it. And then, obviously promote it and build a relationship where, you promote our product for us and, we can give you a percentage or a payment or whatever, however it works. And we want to be clear about what it is that we expect. We want to be clear about the deliverables that we want. And we ultimately need to be really clear about compensation as well. We want to get all of that stuff cleared up front before we start doing business. So if you say, well, I don't have a lot of money to be able to pay people to do this. Well, one of the things that you can offer is you can actually offer affiliate commissions. So they only get paid for stuff that they actually sell. The brilliant thing about this is they're only going to take on products they actually think they can sell. Because if they can't, why would they do it? They're not going to get paid anything if they don't make any sales. And for us, we don't need to pay anything up front. Now that said, we are going to have to pay a higher percentage on the back end. Nobody's going to do that for a very low percent. So if we're going to go with that route, that's okay, but we have to be willing to offer a lot more. The general rule of thumb is if it's a digital product or something that doesn't cost us more to create or ship or whatever, or manufacture, then we're going to want to offer 50% is usually a normal cut. And so we can collaborate on the content creation at that point. So once we made sort of an agreement, we're going back and forth and we say, listen, these are all the benefits you're going to get. You're going to get this product, you're going to get this for free, you're going to be able to do this or do that. And in addition to that, you're going to get paid. You're either going to get commissions or you're going to get a check that we're going to write you for doing this. Then we can collaborate on the content creation. We want to provide influencers with all the key information about our brand and products. This is not where we want to be stingy. If we have products, if we have services we can offer, even if they cost us something, if they're on the hook and they're willing to play ball with us and are interested, that's when we want to give them free access. Make sure they get access to the entire suite, the whole deal. So that way they can really get into it, really use it, and really start to see the benefits and results of using it. When they do that, they're going to be much more apt to be able to give a really passionate sort of promotion. And that is going to go a lot further than just them reading some cue card off the screen. So we want to collaborate on the products, the campaign goals, everything else. But we also want to give them creative freedom because they're the ones who built that audience using their own style. So we want to give them some creative freedom while we ensure the content still aligns with our brand guidelines. So if we have specific guidelines that we have, that we need to use these colors or we need to use this or that, we want to share that. This logo, and it's important to encourage authentic storytelling that's going to resonate with the influencer's audience. Because when we do that, that is what the influencer's audience is used to. That's what they're used to engaging with. And that's what's going to get us the best results for the campaign that we're running. And then, of course, we have to track and measure results. All the rest of this is really great. But if then we just roll with the campaign and we don't have any way to track the results we're getting, we have no way to know whether we want to keep doing business with them, change and go with somebody else, or maybe increase the business if it's going really well. So we want to monitor engagement rates, reach, and conversions from all that influencer content. We want to use unique promo codes or tracking links so we can measure direct sales impact and see exactly how many clicks, exactly how many likes, exactly how many downloads or signups, exactly how many sales are we making from this exact campaign. And we want to analyze the performance of that campaign so we can refine our strategy for future campaigns. Use what works, scrap what doesn't. By leveraging micro-influencers, we can tap into their highly engaged niche audiences. We can benefit from their authenticity, and we can potentially achieve better results compared to larger influencers and do it at a lot more affordable cost. So the takeaway here is that we all need to promote our brand, our products, and our services. And micro-influencers can be a great solution for small businesses without the budget to get the most popular influencers because they'll have more openings to work with anyway, and they'll cost less. So even though their impact can still be really major on their audience, despite the fact the audience is smaller, they can still get that audience to try our brand, our products, and our services. It's also a lot faster than trying to build a 100% organic social following from scratch, which can take months or years. So if we follow these steps, we can grow our business with micro-influencers.